Hey everyone, Joe here from InstantDB. In this video, we're going to build a to-do app with Instant. If you actually go to our website, instantdb.com, and you take a look at our Getting Started docs, you'll see that we already include a to-do app there. You can look at the code to get a sense of how Instant works, but if you want someone to talk you through it, this video is for you. In this video, we're going to focus on building the functionality first, and then we're going to add some UI at the end using Claude. By the end of the video, you should have an idea of how fast you can build things with Instant. Let's get to it. Funny enough, I've actually written a to-do list for us to build a to-do list, but this is an idea of what we're going to cover in this video. So without further ado, let's start by scaffolding a new app. So we have this convenient CLI function called create instant app that will basically scaffold a whole new app for you. So here I'm running it. We'll give a name for the folder that we want to install our dependencies into, called Awesome To-Dos. We're going to build using Next. In this case, we won't use any AI, so we don't need any of these AI files. We will create a new app. We could link to an existing app, but for this one, we're going to create a new app. It's also called Awesome To-Dos, and everything should be installed. So now we can go into it. I'll also go into it down here, and I will run our dev server. Great, so that's running at localhost 3010. I'll go there. And funny enough, we already have a to-do app here. This is basically the end of the video, guys. We just made it. Here you can see I'm adding and deleting to-dos, but this is actually the default example app that we ship when you run create instant app. We're actually going to delete all this because we want to make our own app from scratch. But, the idea is we're going to build something like this. So here I'll go into page.tsx. I'm just going to clear all this. I'll just say return hello world. That way we can really be kind of starting from scratch. Great. We see hello world being rendered. And that's basically it. So we're done scaffolding the app. Let's cross that off. Boom. All right. Next thing. Let's create some schema. Now, there's a way to programmatically create schema in code, but instead of that, I'm actually going to go into instant.com. I'm just going to show you how we can create some schema here with a GUI. So here we have a bunch of apps that I've already created, but I'm going to go into our Awesome To-Dos app. This is our brand new app that we made. Right now there's no data. I can go into Explorer, and you can see that for whatever that's probably because when I created this, we had one to-do in there. So let's actually delete that. And let's actually go in here, and I'm going to delete this whole namespace too. So now we have absolutely no data in our app. You'll see that there's files and users. These are default namespaces for Instant. We give you like storage so you can have people upload images. We give you users so people can easily auth. This is all created for you. You can learn more about it in the docs. We don't need to worry about it for this video. We're just going to worry on making to-dos. So here I'm going to say let's make a whole new namespace. We'll call it to-dos. Now we have this to-dos namespace. Right now there's nothing into it, but what we wanted to do is we wanted to add two pieces of schema. We want to say to-dos have some text, and they have a Boolean indicator for whether they've been completed or not. So we'll come back here. We'll go to edit schema. You can see here it saw that there was a whole bunch of things here before, so we could restore them, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to create a text property here. We'll say that it needs to be a string. Create that. Now we've got text, and we'll say completed. And we'll say that this is a Boolean. Great. Boom. All right. So, maybe we wanted to call it actually is completed. Nice. Was able to rename it. All right. And with that, we've got all of our schema set up. All right. Now let's actually try to render some to-dos as the next thing. So what do I mean by that? Well, in Instant, we have this way for doing queries that we just call use query. But in order for us to do that, we need to actually hook up an actual connection to the database. So let's do that right now. So what we have is, I'm going to say import init from at InstantDB/React. And init is a function. It's going to take an app ID. And we can get our app ID from here. I'll copy it over, we can see it. It's okay to have your app ID exposed, similar to Firebase. We'll set up rules later on if we need to lock it down. We don't really need to do that for this video, but in general, don't need to worry about your app ID being exposed. When you go live, you will want to lock things down with permissions, but especially while you're developing, not a big deal. Great. Let's see here. What is it upset about? Cannot find module InstantDB/React. Why can you not find that? PMPMI. Let's see, what's in our package.json? We've got InstantDB/React. Oh, I misspelled instant. Hooray. Okay, so now we've got this DB. It's an instance of Instant React Web Database. Great. Now what I can do is this. I'm going to say const data is loading error equals db.useQuery to-dos. This is how we do queries in Instant. You use this useQuery hook. This will not only query for the data, but it'll be a live subscription, so you'll be able to see whenever there is, like whenever a new to-do gets created, this will automatically rerun, similar to if you used something like set state. If we said like new to-do, ... old to-dos, this would then lead to a re-renders component. This will be kind of similar. And really, you can also think of this query. So, this is the actual query here. You can almost think of this, the equivalent of this in SQL would be something like select star from to-dos. So that's really what this is saying. So because we're fetching now directly from a database, we have these loading and error states. So we can just handle that by saying something, hey, if it's loading, we'll render this loading div. If there's an error, there shouldn't be, but if there is one, let's at least see it so we can see what's up. This can be very helpful for debugging. Otherwise, let's unpack to-dos from data, and then we can do something like, for each to-do, let's render it. So we'll say something like to-dos.map, t, nice, render a whole bunch of to-dos here. And then it is upset with me. Nice, we just closed all that up. And now, here, I'll even put one more here. Let's put div. We'll say here, hello world. And then we'll render these to-dos. So let's see what we get. I turned off my dev server. Now it's back on. Add the use client. All right. That's right. Nice. So here we've got hello world. Here we don't see any to-dos because we haven't created any. One thing I can do is actually, here, watch, I'll show you how these are going to be updated live. So here, let's add a new row. We'll say, we'll add some new to-dos here. We'll say 1, added a to-do. Say 2, added to-do here. We're not seeing anything render. Very surprising. I think it's because, okay, that makes sense. It's because here I said t.title. when I should have said t.text. And now we see them render here. Woohoo! You can even see here, let's see here. I wanted to show, yes. Here, if I add another row here, let's say 3, you can see it's updating here. One thing that would have been nice, actually, is if I could have just caught that, hey, this was called text instead of title. So one thing I can do here is I can actually use this schema helper here. So what I can say is this. I can say const schema equals, and we can actually import this from the InstantDB library, from the React library. We have this way of defining schema. We can say it's equal to i.schema. Schema takes a few things. In this case, we're going to talk about, it's going to take some entities. One of our entities is a to-do, and that's going to be an i.entity. And in this case, it's going to have text, i.string, and it's going to have completed, or really this should be is completed, and that is going to be a Boolean. And now, if I pass in schema to my DB, now what's going to happen is I'm going to get a bunch of properties on it. So here when I look at to-dos, I'll see that it should have ID text is completed. If I put something like i.title here, we'll see that we get a error that, yeah, title doesn't exist because actually, this is not typed to have that. It should only be t.text. One thing is you can see here how I kind of like defined schema here, but we also defined it kind of here. It would be really nice, like I said, if we could have them in sync with code. So we do actually have something for this. In this next project that we scaffolded, we actually created a bunch of additional files for you to kind of help you out. So one we have in lib, we have this db.ts, which you will see here that it actually creates this connection to the DB for us and exports that. So we didn't even have to define DB here. What we could have also done here is say import DB from, we'll say /lib /db.ts, or yeah, we can just say here. Let's see. I wasn't able to find that. Oh, I guess because we just said export const db. So we'll say this. Import db. Is that because I have it twice here? Let's take a look. What is it unhappy about? Oh, sorry. That should have been like that. Perfect. So now we have that here. Now you can see we're not using schema here. So I can just delete that. Don't need this anymore. Don't really need this init anymore either. If we go into where DB is defined, you can see that here we passed in that schema. We also have this default useDate objects true. Don't need to worry about that right now. But now if I actually go into, so we don't want that, to where we define schema, you can see here that we have this other file, instantschema.ts, that defines the to-dos in code. Now, one thing you'll notice here is, one, there's a few extra things here, like we were talking about the files and the users, but two, this schema for to-dos doesn't actually match what we have in our app. In our app right now, we have is completed in text. And the reason that is because this is the default schema for the example app. This isn't the schema for our own app. So what we're going to want to do is actually run another tool that we have, Instant CLI. It's the CLI tool that we use to make it easier for you to manage your app. And what I'll do is I'll say, first log in. So I'll say, yep, let's open up InstantDB. Let's log in. Great, now we're logged in the CLI. And now what I can say is, I'm in this project, awesome to-dos. I can say instant CLI, let's say pull schema. Yes. So now what this did is this said, hey, give me the schema that's actually in my app, and let's write that into our schema.ts file. And now you can see, great, I've got is completed, and I've got text here. So if I go back to what I had here before, I can see everything is still working. If I do t.title, I will again get this error because it says, hey, that doesn't exist on this type, which only has is completed and text. You can take a look here too. When I highlight over to-dos, I see this is what it looks like. Alrighty, so let's just change this back into text. I think that we are at the point where, great, we've been able to render some to-dos. Alright, now let's actually create some to-dos. We technically created some in the dashboard, but we want a way so that we can create it in our app here. So what we'll do is, let's add an input here. Well, actually here. First, I'll just create a function for creating to-dos. So we'll say create to-do. Yep, it'll take some text. And what we'll do is we'll say this will do db.transact tx.todos. We're going to import ID. ID is a function that generates a new identifier for this to do. You can think of it like as like a primary key. This will be a UUID. It's very important. You can't just put in something like LOL. That's not going to work. It's going to fail. We need to put in something that is a valid UUID. And now we'll say here .create, and we'll just say pass in the text that we got from this function. And this should be db.tx. And that's actually pretty much it. I imported from ID here, but I actually wanted to import this from InstantDB/React. Great. Now we're rendering happy again. So now let's actually hook this up. So here we have a whole bunch of to-dos. Maybe let's make another input here. We'll say input type equals text. All right, great. No, we don't want to do it like this. Let's do this. Let's have a set. We'll use state and set state. So here we'll say text, set text. Fantastic, but not db.useState. In this case, we'll just use React's useState. So here we can say perfect. And then what we'll do here is not on key down. We'll say value equals text, sure. On change, perfect. Great. Here we have this nice little input. Yeah, let's put everything in a flex column so it can just render a lot easier. Let's maybe add, let's add some border here. Nice. Maybe we can say W max SM so it's not too big. I'll say here div class name equals W max SM. There you go. Close up this. Nice. All right, great. So now we have this nice little small input. We'll even give it here. Give it some breathing room. Nice. And then let's put like a submit button here on this. Let's say button on click. We'll say perfect. Create to do text. Nice. Add to do. We'll also, to make this a little nicer of a button, that sounds fine to me. Let's put this button also inside this div. Cool. You can say, there's definitely much better ways we could style this, but we're just going to move fast. Nice. Yeah, I'll even move this a little bit. Great. So now I'll add a little bit of padding to everything. All right, great. So now if I say something like, let's add a to-do, and I click the button, great, the to-do gets added. We can even do something even nice here. How about this? We'll say, yeah. Oh, I guess that already worked. Great. And now we're able to add new to-dos. Look at that. And look, when I refresh the page, they're still there. So here we made this create to-do function. Just calls, it creates the to-dos. We can see if we go to InstantDB, we go to the dashboard, we go into our Explorer, we can see our to-dos are here. Next up, let's actually implement something for creating to-dos. So again, I'll go back to our code here, write a new function, delete to-do. Well, it'll take in a ID, the ID being the identifier for the, let's call this to-do ID so it doesn't collide with this ID here. And we'll say, this doesn't need this ID function. The autocomplete got a little too happy there. But yeah, all it needs is to say really db.transact again, transact being the function that we use to write our mutations. And then we're going to pass in db.tx.todos. This will be the specific operation we want to do. We're going to give the to-do ID for this specific ID, for this specific to-do we're going to delete. And then we're just going to call .delete on it. And now we can just hook it up. So maybe right here next to the to-dos, instead of just returning to-dos and text, we'll say this. Here we've got our to-dos here. Great, this is basically the same as before. I'll just reformat this a bit. Nice. Now what we'll say is, yeah, great. We'll wrap this in a div. And then what we can do here is fantastic. We can just have this delete button here. Now we have a whole bunch of delete buttons. All of this UI could definitely use some love, but that's okay. We don't need to worry about that right now. We'll just add some spacing between each one of these items. And now what will happen is when I delete it, you can see that they're all disappearing. Now we've got only one more to do left. Woohoo! So here I can make some more. And there you go. 1, 2, 3. Now we got delete to-dos working. All right. Let's next do toggle to-dos. Toggle. Let's just add maybe a little check mark button that when we click it, it'll set the completed at state. So for toggle, what we can do is this. We'll say function toggle to do. It will take, what we can do is this. We can already see whether the to-do has been completed or not. So we can actually just take a to-do for this. So let's take a to-do, and we're going to want to call it of a type to-do. And we can get the type actually by using a helper that we have here from Instant. So I'm going to implement, it's called instaql entity. This is a type. And what we can do is this. We can say type to do is equal to instaql entity. we're going to import from our, what we'll do is this. We want to, in Schema, we exported this app schema type. We're going to import that here. Come back here. We'll say import app schema from .instant.schema. Let's see here. Instant.schema. Maybe we can say this. There we go. Now it's happy. All right. It's going to take in an app schema and to-dos. Great. So now you can see with this helper here, we actually get the utility type for to-dos. This is basically saying, give me the to-do entity. Give me the type for the to-do entity that we defined in our schema. And now I can just pass that in here. Great. And now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say db.transact. Exactly, db.tx.todos of todo.id. And we're going to say .update. And update is what we can use to say, hey, let's modify properties of this and basically flip it. If it was completed, make it uncompleted, and if it wasn't completed before, now let's make it completed. And yeah, now we can just add, we could add a checkbox. We can also just add another button to say toggle completed. Maybe we can put it right here, right before. Perfect. And now we have our checkbox here. And now when we check mark them, they're going to be marked as completed. We refresh, they stay that way. When we refresh again, it persists. You can even see here that if I go into my dashboard and now I mark this as true for is completed, and now I come back to here, we see that it updated live. Great, we got toggle to-dos done. All right, now let's add a button that will delete all of our completed to-dos. So here we can add another function here. We'll say delete completed to-dos. Perfect. This one, we'll say it's going to take a bunch of to-do IDs. We can just say here to-do IDs. Great. And now we'll say here db.transact. We can even do it like this. Watch, we can say, so we can actually do multiple operations in one transaction, as opposed to, let's say we have 10 to-dos to delete. One way we could do it is we could do 10 different transactions, but that will be an unnecessary load on our database. Instead, we can do everything in just one transaction. And exactly this. We would just say map over all these to-dos and create this separate TX. Again, I wouldn't call this ID. I'd maybe call this to-do ID, just so that it wouldn't, in this case, it wouldn't collide with the ID that we imported. But still, this can lead to weird debugging issues down the line if you're mixing them up. So I would just be nice about having a separate name there. And now we can just say db.transact all of these different TXs. So let's see, what is it upset about here? Oh, I see. We don't need to actually spread it. We can just do TXs. Alternatively, we could have done this, but that's not necessary here. But yes, transact, you can see in the examples before, transact took one TX, but transact also can accept an array of TXs. Great, and now what we can do here is, if we wanted to get all of our completed to-dos, we can say something like const completed to-dos, exactly. We'll say filter to-dos for ones where is completed is true, and then just give us the to-do ID. Great, so now what we can have here is maybe we'll have one more button. We'll say button, sure, give it these random styles, on click, delete completed to-dos. Excellent. So now what we can see here is this. Let's say I'm going to uncheck mark this. I deleted completed to-dos. Only 1 and 2 are left. So we'll add, or only 2 is left, sorry. So we'll add 2 and 3. Here you can see again, if I check mark all of them, I've deleted them all. I refresh, they're all gone. They're all gone from here as well. We just completed deleted to-dos. Alrighty guys, now we gotta do toggle to-dos. So the way this should work is if we have some to-dos that are completed, I'll do this. If we have some to-dos that are completed, if I press toggle, only 3 should be toggled on. If all 3 of them are on, then when I do toggle, everything should be off. So again, we'll start here by writing a new function here, toggle all to-dos. It will take an array of to-dos. Fantastic. What we can do is this. We can say, effectively what we know is this. If at least one to-do is not completed, then what we want to do is we want to set everything to true. If none of the to-dos are completed, if there are no to-dos, so if nothing is completed, or let me rephrase. If everything is completed, we want to mark all the to-dos as not completed. If at least one to-do is not completed, we want to mark it as completed. So let's do that. So what we can do is here, we can say, let's see here, const, we'll say not completed. Exactly. If, we'll say, if not completed dot length is greater than 0, then we know we want to make a transaction here. We'll say db.transact, db, well, here, we can say this. If it's not completed, then what we'll say is tx's is, we don't even have to do it like this. We can just do this, db transact not completed, exactly, to-dos, exactly. So what this is saying here is, I'll turn on wrap so we can see it all. This is saying, go through all the not completed ones, grab their ID, update it so that completed is true. Otherwise, what we're going to do is, in this case, everyone is completed. So what we'll do instead is we'll say db.transact to-dos.map exactly, and we'll make everything false. And that'll be it. So now we can come back, and let's add another button here for toggling our to-dos. There we go, perfect. And now let's try it out. If I toggle the to-dos, oh, look at that. If I have at least one that's not completed, boom, works as a charm. Here I toggled them all here. You can see everything is false. Here I toggled them all here. You can see everything now is true. Perfect. Worked just as expected. All right. Now let's add a completely different feature. We want to see how many people are currently online right now. To do this, we're going to use something a little different than using our transactions and queries. We're going to instead use this idea of presence. To add presence in, what we'll do is actually we'll go into our DB. We'll go to where we defined our schema. Funny enough, in the default app, it looks like we already had, when we pulled the schema, it looks like we already had some presence declared here. But effectively, this is what we would do. We would add inside the schema call, we would add another key for rooms. You can read more about this in our docs too, to go a little deeper to understand how it works. But here, I'll even write it from scratch here. We'll say we want rooms. We're going to call the name of the rooms to-dos here. And we're going to give it a key presence, and we're going to say this is going to have a entity of, we'll say it's going to have in here, in this case we don't really need that much other than just the number of people, so we don't really actually have to include anything more. You can just say something like this, and that this will be enough. So there we go, we've set up our basic room. Now when we go back here, we're going to create a connection to this room. We'll say const room equals db.rooms to do. You'll see this is our to-dos room here. And now what I can say is, I'll say here const peers. So we'll say, hey, who are all the people who are connected to this room? We'll say use presence of this room. We can give it additional properties, but in this case, this is all we're going to need. You'll see peers is going to be, again, it's going to be this map showing everyone who's connected. And we'll say here the number of people online is equal to, it's already autofilling it for me, but peers.length plus 1. Let's see here. Plus cannot be applied to types presence.peer. Okay. We can say object.keys because this is a map. So this will be the number of entries in here plus 1. And we do the plus 1 because we want to include ourselves. So here, instead of maybe hello world, we'll say number of users online, num online. So now we see that this says 1. And if I open a second tab, oh, it got upset here. That makes sense. I'm using a hook here, and this hook was below this if is loading, if error. We got to make sure, follow React's rules of hooks. Make sure that this happens. These are not being run conditionally, so now these will always run, and great. Now we see number of users online too. Here, if I closed it, this went back to 1. Now I open up a new one, and now we're at 2. Perfect. Now we got all that rendering. Alrighty, guys, and we basically finished all of our to-dos. Here's the app that we have right now. Does not look very snazzy, but you know what we can do? We already basically have this app done. We got it done in like less than 100 lines of code. It's got all of the functionality that we would really want for our to-do app. So what we could do is this. We can now just go to Claude. We'll boot it up. I'll say, hey, I've got a to-do app. I've got a to-do app in page.tsx. It's fully functional. It's fully functional. But the UI isn't great. Can you give me 5 designs with some great UI that is elegant, aesthetic, and would make Steve Jobs smile? It should retain all the functionality that the app has right now. Don't add any new functionality. Don't add any new functionality. And yeah, we'll just let Claude cook up some new designs for us. Again, if we started this with adding some AI rules, you could also prompt Claude to kind of add more instant functionality. That wasn't really the goal of this video. The goal of this video was just to show you how you can quickly build a to-do app and kind of learn kind of the basics of instant. But just trying to show you here, if I'm using something like Claude Code or any other AI, after you've really made all your functionality, or at least the first version of your functionality, you're not quite sure what the UI should look like, you can at least talk to Claude to kind of like bolt it all on, because you can see that the actual instant code, it's not really that much. All right, so let's see what it got done here. It made me 5 designs. Okay, where can I see these designs? Did it add any new code anywhere? I wonder. Oh, it just printed it out there. Alright, come on, Claude. Nice, so now it's going to just save them all, and then we'll be able to see everything. All right. Can you give me a index page so I can just see all of these designs? I feel like Claude is being very lazy right now in this video. I feel like usually it does a good job of doing everything for me, but maybe it's because I'm using Haiku and I'm just trying to make it go very, very fast. Alright, so it still hasn't changed this at least, but that's not a bad thing. Alright, let's see what it gave us. Nice. That's pretty cool. Amazing. Alright. Oh, nice. It even had the on lines. Oh, we got some glass going. Back button doesn't work on their third design. That's funny. Cool. Did this one, I wonder, did it? Oh, nice. It added some logic to conditionally render that. This brutalist design. So there you go. This one's kind of cool. Yeah, this one's definitely cool. Very fun. So you can see here we finally added some UI too. We got 5 designs. Sometimes it can be very nice. You first build out all your functionality. If you're not 100% sure what the design should look like, you can even maybe before you build out your functionality, it can be good to talk about design so you can get an idea of what you want to ultimately shoot for. But I do think it is nice to maybe build out the functionality first, so then you know, hey, here's the thing, everything works, and now I can start focusing on UI to make it look really nice. But with that, guys, we have a full to-do app that we built with Instant. The actual to-do logic itself was only about 92 lines, but then I love how it kind of overwrote all that. Claude kind of made us a whole bunch of other designs. Design 5, I feel like that was my favorite one. This brutalist one, you can see how it basically kept most of the instant code. The only thing that really was different here was it added a whole bunch of UI to make things look pretty. But the whole thing ended up being 132 lines of code. So yeah, with that, we learned how to make a basic app with Instant. I hope you found this useful. If you have any feedback, definitely let us know. Cheers!